Welcome! In this video I'm going to be taking a look at this BougeRV 12V electric heating blanket. So this was provided to me by the distributor, but they're not compensating me for this video and they're not reviewing it before I post it. If you find this video helpful and you want to purchase one of these, I'll put a link to it in the description, and if you use that link it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost anything extra. So the size on this is 71 inches by 51 inches or 180 by 130 centimeters. Voltage is 12 volts DC. If we look on the back, we have some features. It says full body heating element, upper heat zone extra heat, core heat zone, moderate heat, foot heat zone, extra heat. So if you look at a traditional 120 volt electric blanket, it will typically have heating coils across the whole surface, and that can be very nice when you're plugging into the wall and you have unlimited power. If you're running off battery power, for instance, if you were to put this under a sleeping bag, with the traditional heating blanket, you have these coils that are going to be kind of off to the side, and the energy is just going to be going into the air. And you could maybe fold it up or something, but with this blanket, the heating element is in the middle, so you're going to have more efficiency with the energy you're using going into the core of a person laying on or sleeping on it. Now these wings can then fold over your sleeping bag, and there's some little toggles here to keep it closed. So when compared to a traditional 120 volt heating blanket, I think this is going to be a much more efficient option when plugged into something like a portable power station. So this has a control with a heat display, adjustable timer, it's a smart controller. So this has an app that you can use with Bluetooth. It has a pouch to put the controller in. This talks about the toggles, and it comes with a storage bag. So the output on this says 48 watts, and batteries not included. So you can power this with a number of different things. You can use a portable power station. You can just use a 12 volt battery. You could use a car if the car is running, or if you're in an RV, you might have a 12 volt socket you can plug into. So let's get this open. So here we have the whole blanket. This whole thing's in a vacuum pouch, including the manual. So let's crack this open. So if you're not familiar with these bags, this is a vacuum storage pouch. So you can place something in here, and then you take a traditional vacuum cleaner and place it on here, and it sucks the air out, and it makes it smaller for storage. So that's kind of neat. You can reuse this for this blanket or for something else. So here we have the manual. This talks about app control. So we'll download that app and test it out in a bit. And let's take a look at the manual. Now I'm not going to cover everything in here. You'll want to read through it on your own. So we have some notes. This talks about the different parts. So it comes with the blanket, bag, cable, and car adapter. This talks about connecting it to the blanket. So this has a 5521 barrel connector, and it comes with an adapter for a 12 volt DC car adapter. So to turn it on, it looks like you press and hold the power button for 1 second until both the gear indicator and the timing indicator light up. So when they say gear, they mean level. So here's the control panel. So it looks like it has 3 lights. So it has 1, 2, and 3, and then for 4 and 5, it's going to light up pairs of these lights. So the timer's for 1 to 3 hours, and then using the app, you can go from 4 to 10 hours. So you hold down the power button to turn it on or off, and then you press it to go between the heat levels. Here it says the heat level and the auto shut-off settings will be automatically saved from the last use. So after the timer runs out, you can hold down the power button to turn it back on. Then we have some troubleshooting here. This talks about wrapping it around your body, so you can wrap it the long way or the short way. The toggles are alternating with the toggle and the loop. Here we have care and maintenance, and that's probably about it here. Or we have the specs in the back. And then just some more notes. So let's get this out. So this feels very nice. It feels durable. On the inside we have a faux suede. On the outside we have, it's kind of a durable fabric. It's kind of like what a sleeping bag would have, but a more durable sleeping bag. It's not as kind of silky. So here's the storage bag. Cinches closed. And here we have a pouch. Unzip it. And we have all of the wires and the control in here. Looks like we have a hook and loop fastener. Also have a zip tie on here. So this has the 5521 connector. The buttons on here are tactile. So this will go into a 12 volt socket. I'll unplug that for just a minute. I like that they have a pouch on here to hold this in. Gives for a little bit of a cleaner setup. Let's try this out on my bench here a little bit, and then I'll take it and I'll spread the whole thing out. Since this is 48 watts, I should be able to use this small portable power station. Now something to consider is a smaller portable power station might internally run off 12 volts. So you're going to get efficient power transfer between your socket and this. Whereas if you're using a larger power station, it might run off 48 volts or some other voltage and use a converter to drop the voltage down, which is potentially going to be less efficient. So with a small power station like this, I'm guessing this will be a very efficient setup. So I'll hold the power down here. I'll turn on my DC. I'll plug it in. and I will readjust this in a bit so we can see the wattage. So I have it plugged in and it's not drawing any power. Now this has a little bit of overhead to it, and it may even automatically shut off, I'm not sure. But you could potentially have this in a tent and then use Bluetooth to heat up your sleeping bag before you go to bed. So maybe you're sitting out by the campfire and you think you're going to go to bed in the next 15 minutes, so you can get this thing warmed up so when you go in your tent it's all ready to go. So let's go ahead and turn this on. So I'll hold down the heat button. And it looks like we're at level 5. So now this is running and it says 53 watts. So it's going a little over the rating on the box. And with this battery, this is a 300 watt hour battery and it's 5.9 hours. So if I was using a traditional electric blanket, I have one that runs maybe 100 to 120 watts. So it's twice as much wattage. Plus with my power station, it's going to be going through the inverter circuitry, which will cut down on the efficiency. So here you're going to get around twice as long a runtime just on the wattage used alone, but that's discounting the fact that you have the inverter, which will also take down the efficiency with your traditional electric blanket. Now, a traditional electric blanket at 100 watts is going to give you 50 watts more heating, but this is centralizing the heating under you, so it's probably effectively about the same. So let's turn this down. I am feeling it starting to heat up. So let's go to 1, and now it dropped to 40 watts, and now to 0. So I'm guessing this is going to cycle on and off to maintain that heat at 1. And we can see the light here, so it goes to 1, 2, 3, this pair is 4, the other pair is 5. Then we have the time. We can say 1, 2, or 3. So we'll need to use the app to have longer run times on this. So let's check that out. I have my iPad here. I'll search for BougeRV. There's a BougeRV app. I'll hit Get. We'll hit Open. It wants to use Bluetooth. It wants to send notifications. We have a little tutorial here. I'll go through it. I'll say Try Now. Okay, so we'll hit plus up here. It's going to scan for devices. It found the blanket. I'll hit Connect. It says Learn More. I'll skip that for now. Here we have the blanket. I'll tap on it. So we'll need to turn it on with the power button, the virtual power button. So now it's on, and it just kicked on. And then let's change the heat level to 3. So now it's running. And we can change the timer to set it to 10 hours. Now, I don't think this has any kind of continuous run mode, but 10 hours should get most people through the night. So I really like the idea of that app. Let me get another power option to test on this. So here I have a 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. Now this looks like a car battery. Now since this is outputting 12 volts, it should work directly with this. So I'll just plug right in. Now the nice thing is this has very little circuitry in it. It has battery protection circuitry, but aside from that, it doesn't have a display on it, which can take energy, and it's going to have very little standby power loss. Now the downside is there's no screen, so you don't know how much power is in this. But this is 1280 watt hours. If we divide that by about the 50 watts this is running, you can get, around 24 hours of runtime, give or take. Now I'd have to actually run it for a long time to actually find that out. But if you're going camping for a weekend where you have, say, 2 nights of sleeping and you have about 8 hours a night, this should easily be able to cover that. So you could have this in your tent. Since it is powered, we can go into the app, we can open it, and we can hit that button and we can get our sleeping bag warming up before we go to bed. And it may not seem like a big deal to get into a tent, but a lot of times you have to unzip it and it can just be kind of a hassle. This way you can just hit a button. You could also use this in an RV if you have this under your sleeping area. You could be out by the campfire. You're going to be heading to bed soon. You can go in and get this thing preheated. So I'm going to get this spread out so we can see it opened up, and then we'll check it with a thermal camera. Okay, so I have this spread out, and you can see where the coils are looking at the fabric if you look up close. So I'm going to lay down on this, and I'm around 6 foot tall so you can understand the scale of the blanket. So it just wraps around me. It doesn't overlap in the middle, and it's not quite tall enough to cover my feet and my head, but that's fine. To me, this will supplement other things I'm wearing. Like if I'm sitting in a chair, I'll have boots on and probably a coat. If I'm sleeping, I'll be in a sleeping bag. Now in my few seconds of laying on here, it's not super hot, but it's definitely warm. But I generally don't need it to be super hot because over time this will soak into everything that's contacting it, like your sleeping bag. So it will just kind of maintain that heat. I don't want to get overheated using an electric blanket. I just want to stay warm. I think this just has the perfect amount of power to do that. Let's get out the thermal camera and look at it. Okay, so here we're looking at it with the thermal camera, and we can see a hot area here, so that's at 71 degrees. In the middle, we're at 67, and then we see a hot area at the top. Now, it doesn't look like it's heating there, but let me get closer. And from a different angle, you can see the heating coils a little bit better. So you have the hottest area down where your feet are and where your head is, and then it's less heat going into the middle, which makes sense. Those would be the coldest areas of a sleeping bag. So that's the BougeRV 12-volt electric heating blanket. I like camping in the winter, but sometimes it can be miserably cold, so I like using an electric blanket. Previously, I've used a 120-volt electric blanket, but that takes a lot of power. With this BougeRV electric blanket, I'll be able to power this more easily with a portable power station. That way I don't have to worry so much about conserving energy. An electric blanket is really probably one of the most efficient ways to heat yourself because you're putting the heat directly in contact with your body and not wasting it trying to heat up a large space. I really like the feature of this where the heating is right in the middle, so it goes directly into your sleeping bag or your body, and it has those loops on there to help keep it retained with your sleeping bag. So aside from camping, this could also be great for sports events. You can be sitting in your chair, have this wrapped around you, and then have a small portable power station off to the side powering it. Now, one potential downside is since this is 12 volt, you can't plug it into the wall without a 12 volt to 120 volt adapter. So if you're wanting something that's dual use, it may be easier to just get a second electric blanket you can plug in the wall. But if you're looking for something for outdoor and off-grid use, I think this is a great option. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.